Daddy. You're right, thank you. This morning, those all still in my bag. Do I need that too? Oh, yeah. Let's just write that down. We'll probably go over it again, but...
Shoot. As you set up your notebook, this is the name of our unit, Urban Geography. Did any of you happen to look to see who you're sitting with? So you know who's absent? Vanessa, you said you're missing Gabby and Cynthia.
Rachel.
Rachel, so it's just for Val down guy. I think I almost made your seating charts all same gender today. Not really close to doing that.
Why didn't you?
IDK. All right.
Trying to set up some couples in here.
It's happened once.
With who?
Brian Moracle and I just ran into her at the bakery like 3 months ago.
At the bakery.
Can't remember her name though. But they sat in the front row right next to each other and ended up getting married.
Oh, cute.
How do you know that? Mariah. He played well, I had him as a sophomore. He played baseball for me. And they dated from the time they were in my class till they were seniors. Anyway, I'm not sure if this question works well for you. What we're talking about today is the origin and diffusion of cities. You might want to ask, how did cities begin and spread? It's really simple today. Nothing we will be pursuing is beyond a level 2 of just being able to recite it back. Actually, it would be a 3. Level 2, you need support to recite back. No, 2 is right. So if you can understand these terms and contexts, you'll be fine. Tomorrow we gotta get a little bit more complicated in your brains. But origin and diffusion of cities, or when and why and where, if you want to add that to people start living in cities, what we're doing. So I'm going to define city for you today, and this is a conversation as much as it is a definition. City we define with 3 things. Some define it by size, and that's not on this slide, it's on the later one, but I'm going to ask you to write it right now. So some people that say cities has to be 5,000 people, and some say 10,000 people. So somewhere in your defining of cities, right, that it's either 5,000 or 10,000, depending on who's defining it. It won't be on your test in terms of a number because geographers give different numbers. But 5,000, some say is a city, some say 10,000 is a city. A city is also defined as a group of people in buildings. Okay? But technically, in order to really be a city, it has to provide function. It has to provide urban function. And the weird thing for you in this context is urban function is a vocab term, but it is part of the definition of city. Okay? With me? So urban function is a separate vocab term, but it's also part of the definition of a city. So I'm going to ask you this. What urban functions does Elk River provide? What are some things Elk River does? It provides schools. What else?
Thanks.
What other functions does the city provide? Okay, well, hold on. I don't want to confuse you. The city government is not the only function provider. Do we have liquor stores? Do we have places to get food? Do we have places to exercise? Do we have places to recreate? Do we have places to worship? Do we have libraries? Okay, some of those are directly provided by the government of the city, right? But some of those are provided by the function of the city. If there were not a restaurant in town, wouldn't one of you start one? Right? I mean, the logic of it is that cities work because people make them work. They develop the functions as needed. Elk River is really missing adult entertainment or adolescent entertainment. We don't have a bowling alley anymore. We have a movie theater. What are the two things adolescents do in Elk River? Go to a movie or go to halves. Or watch Netflix. Right? So you recognize that our urban functions are mildly limited. Yes? True? But we are small on the end of an urban setting, right? We're not big. Is Maple Grove more entertaining than Elk River?
Yeah, 10 times more.
Is it more populous than Elk River?
Yes.
Is Minneapolis more entertaining?
Yes.
Is it larger than Maple Grove?
Yes.
Okay, so the reality is this, though. In order to be a city, it needs to provide political control, higher education, modern culture, markets. Specialization is a big one that I'm hoping you're developing an understanding of. We need people that are government leaders. We need people that run the parks. We need people that build houses. We need people that work for the electric company. We need special functions in order to really be a city. And without specialization, we don't work right as a city. There is one thing missing from this list that we should probably add, and that's protection. Early cities were commonly built on hills or in defensible areas, and it became a really big deal to defend them. What did non-city dwellers do in the earliest days of cities? How did they make their living? Some farmed, some hunted and gathered. So if you had a bad year and you didn't have food, what would you do? Rob the city. So cities needed to be defensible, sometimes from other cities, sometimes from plunderers and things like that. So do you get that there's kind of three parts of this definition? That's a clustering of buildings and people, that it could be 5,000 or 10,000 depending on who's defining it, and that it has to provide urban functions. Okay? Questions so far? All right. We're going to spend some time with a model tomorrow called central place theory. And central place theory ranks cities, gives them a hierarchy. Do you know what a hierarchy means? Yeah. So you go prince, queen, king, we have rank, status. These are ranks of cities. I will not ask you to recite the definition of any of these except metropolis. Okay, so don't memorize what a hamlet is. If you just want to write smallest urban settlement or lowest level, that would be more than you would need for the test. If you want to just list these in order, that would be enough for a test. But I want to tell you what changes between a hamlet and a village, what changes between a village and a town, and what changes between a town and a city. A hamlet is a clustering of people and buildings, okay? But basically doesn't provide urban function. There are very few services. How many of you have heard of the city of Orrock? What is the one place that is a public service in the city of Orrock? What's it called? It's called the Refuge. Is there even a church in Orrock? Orrock is a village. Excuse me, is a hamlet. Provides virtually no service. I don't know the population of Orrock. It's not big, okay? But it doesn't provide service. So sure, it's a clustering of people, but it doesn't go beyond that. A village, okay, slightly larger than a hamlet, but it basically says offering several services. Okay? Zimmerman, Zimmerman have a public library?
No.
Does
Doesn't.
it have a post office?
Yes.
Has churches, has bars, has gas stations, has restaurants. A movie theater? Does it have a golf course?
Yeah.
It has a bowling alley. Hot dang. It's got a nursery. Did you hear the loaded question asked it had a golf course?
I got it.
Ryan.
So, I don't know if Zimmerman's a village or a town.
So you can come golfing this summer.
I don't know that we need to know that if it's a village or a town, but we need to know that villages are a step up.
Hold on, I'm not done yet.
Villages are a step up from hamlets. Okay. Basically on your test, I'm going to say which, in Walter Christoller's urban hierarchy, which is the smallest?
Hamlet.
Hamlet. And then biggest you're going to know is a metropolis. You're going to see that next. Okay? Ready?
Yeah.
So then, our next step up is a town. I think Zimmerman's a town. I don't know its population, but a few thousand inhabitants. I don't know where even hundreds of thousands comes from. I don't remember putting that in there. I don't know what I drew that from, but I think that will confuse you, so don't write it. See the parenthetical, even hundreds of thousands? Just leave that out. So generally, many goods and services are available. I would say that's Zimmerman. For sure, Elk River has many or several goods and services. We have restaurants, we have hardware stores, Menards, we have all kinds of residential opportunities. We have pretty elaborate park system, thanks really to Mr. Angelic. Do you know how much effort he puts into the Elk River City Parks? Did you guys know that was his deal? He's on our park board and he really battles hard against the city to get them to dedicate land to parks. Yeah, Mr. Angelic is there's a handful of guys, but they're largely responsible for it. Does Zimmerman have a dump? Does Zimmerman have a city park?
It has like a little thing that has like a ice skating rink and like a park and baseball field.
It doesn't have an indoor hockey arena?
It doesn't have it.
Okay, so you do recognize that Elk River provides more services to its people than Zimmerman does? Okay. In this, do you see where it says virtually all cities have suburbs and hinterlands? Make sure hinterlands gets in your notes and underline it. We're going to come back to that tomorrow.
Wait, what?
In cities, you see in parentheses in the bottom line of cities, it says hinterlands. Okay. And then metropolis is when cities blend into more than one city. Do you agree with the statement that Maple Grove is part of the Minneapolis urban area? The way it's described on the news is the 7-county metropolitan area. 7 counties make up what is now the metropolitan area. When I was a kid, the metropolitan area was described as the 5-county metropolitan area. So our metropolitan area is getting bigger. Can I tell you a story of Elk River? Have any of you ever been told to go play in the road?
Yeah.
I'm almost not kidding when I tell you that my parents used to tell me to go play in the road, but I'm a little bit kidding. But isn't that something that, like, that's what my older brother used to say to me when I would bug him. Why don't you just go play in the middle of the road? Like, the point is go get hit by a car and not come back. You get it? Okay. So when I was a kid, my backyard was Highway 10. Do you guys know where Cretex is? It's a concrete plant on the highway. If you go to the south side of the highway, there's a hill, and if you pay enough attention, there used to be, there kind of still is, a 2-plot garden and a white stucco house. That was where I grew up. And so when I was a kid, about 37 times a winter, I would take my sled to the hill along Highway 10 and sled from the highway down the hill. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you it was pretty common for me to go into the middle of the highway to get my running start down the hill. Not at one point in my life did it dawn on me that one of those cars could lose control and come careening down the ditch on me. Not that that has really ever happened. But when I was a kid, the sign for the Elk River city limits was right where I was sledding. So I would be, the sign was right there, it said Elk River city limits, and I was sledding. 1970, Elk River city limits, 2,182. In 1980, it changed to 6,000 and something. In 1990, it changed to it moved. 1990, the sign moved. You know where the sign is now?
It's
down by the bridge, right? Is it even on the other side of the Orono Bridge? Is it way out by the Sherburne County office? I don't even know where it is now. But so it was right in my backyard, and then it went up to 14,000. Now I think it's 20 something, right? 23 something? Okay, 26 now? So here's the truth. The highway wasn't much of a highway when I was a kid, right? Elk River was at best a village when I was a kid. When I was a kid, there was a bowling alley, go figure. There was downtown Elk River, and there were a couple of things on Highway 10. Nothing on Jackson Street over here existed. None of the Cub, none of that whole strip mall, no Leanne Chin's, no McDonald's, no KFC, no Walmart, no Home Depot, no Subway. None of those things existed. We had a couple of restaurants in town. One was called Barney's. I don't remember the name of the other one, but we didn't eat out. I remember when Domino's came in and we ordered pizza. It was like, oh my gosh. Okay? So my point in that story is twofold. One, Elk River was a pretty limited town. Yes, we had a post office. Yes, we had a flower shop. Yes, we had barber shops. We had one movie theater, and that was on Main Street. It's now called the Theater Office Building. Pay attention when you're down there, right next to McCoy's. So the town has changed a lot. And so now we are way more city-like in our function and in our size and in the services we provide to our people. And so it takes us into a conversation around urban. And I want to give you 3 definitions for the word urban. Well, first of all, let's define urban. Of city, okay? City and the surrounding stuff. I think the best way to think of urban is of city. Does that make sense in your head if you say of city? What is the opposite of urban?
Not a city.
Not country would be a definition for urban then? So urban and rural we contrast. Urban is city and the makeups of the city and its surroundings. City-like. Okay? I want you to know that the second sentence on there, the number one, and this we visited this in Unit 2, the number one movement of people in our world is rural to urban. Most voluminous migration flow. People moving from the country to the city. I'm going to show you that in a moment. Like jaw-dropping graphic. I shouldn't say that. That makes it too dramatic, but it's pretty significant graphic.
Well, what's considered the city? It's like the suburbs also considered the city?
It would be considered urban, yeah. I think the way they do it, like statistically, is places 5,000 or less. So I think that's where they really use that numerical thing. So if we go into rural India, if there are collections of people more than 5,000, we would not call it rural. So I mean, if you tried to define, go to every community and define it and say, oh, no, you know, post office. So I think that's where they really anchor it to how many people. It would be really interesting to know in a slide or two, I'll show you, but if they classify urban as 10 or 5, because it would really affect the percentages.
Yeah.
But do you recognize that our number one movement of people is rural to urban? Okay. So I want to give you, it might be easier to follow my words. There are 3 really ideas about urbanization, and one is a movement of people. Okay? That is, if I'd say our world is urbanizing, we can talk about a movement of people. Okay? Elk River certainly urbanized. When in 1984, I believe the year I graduated, I know that's the year I graduated. I believe that's the year Elk River put up the sign. When you used to be when you would drive into Elk River coming down Highway 10, it would say, "Welcome to the city of Elk River, where city and country flow together." Oh, my heart is warm. How about yours? Okay. But I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, my brother-in-law used to ride his snowmobile from Albertville to high school, and he would park his snowmobile here and get on his snowmobile and ride home at the end of the day. Okay? That's how rural we once was. All right? One of our most significant class was FFA, Future Farmers of America. We don't have an agricultural class available at our high school anymore. Okay? And so urbanization is 1, it's a movement of people. 2, it's a transformation of places. Elk River was a rural. When I was a kid, it was classified as rural. It is not anymore. It's a transformation of places. And it's a transformation of our world, would be your 3rd definition. So it's a movement of people, a transformation of places, and a transformation of the world. Chris?
How old is that definition? It says projected for the end.
I'm going to show you something that shows you this. That part of your slide is off of the 2007 textbooks, PowerPoint, still remnant of that. But I will show you a graphic from 2015 that shows it. But yeah, this textbook, I think, was published in 2007, and that's one part of the PowerPoint not edited yet. But we have exceeded. I do want you to know that. Did I tell you that on the first slide? I haven't told you that yet. I will ask you, what percentage of the people in the world live in urban settings? And that is more than 50. I don't know if it's 51 or 54 or whatever, but more than half of our world's people live in urban settings. When I show you this graphic, you're going to think it's got to be way more than that, but it isn't. So especially Africa, still hundreds of millions of people living rurally. China, still hundreds of millions of people living rurally. Okay? Questions? Can I click on this link? Actually, this link goes into my Firefox, and the Firefox doesn't work. So we're going to go to this one. Okay. This tells you 1955 urban centers of 5 million or more. Okay? Got it? This tells us that roughly 30% of the world's people lived in cities. However, look at the population, do the math. We're what, 2.7 billion people at that point? That's China and India today. So now I'm going to take you,
China and India, more.
probably pretty close, take you to 85. Now we're up to 40%. Our total population is about 3.7 billion. Okay? We're starting to see emerging cities. These two were not on the last map. This one was not on the last map. None of these were on the last map. Cairo wasn't. Istanbul wasn't. Moscow, I'm not sure. Tehran wasn't. Jakarta wasn't. The only one in China that was on the map in the last one was Shanghai. So Hong Kong wasn't. I believe Tokyo was, but I don't think Osaka, Kobe was. So are you ready to go to present? Yes? Crazy. And so this tells you, now, this is the irony. There are as many people living in cities in 2015 as there were people in 1985. Crazy. But this shows you that statistically we are now at 52. I do think this is a projection from a few years ago. I think I found this a year or two ago. So the 2015 is a projected total, not an actual. But look at this region right here. Just crazy. Several of these in India alone. Mumbai, 21.8 million. Mumbai was not on this list as being more than 5 million in 1955. Okay? Dramatic movement of people, dramatic growth of people, dramatic transformation of the world. Miami wasn't on there. Dallas wasn't on there. Toronto wasn't on there. Mexico City was. Look at that one. I don't know what this one is. Bogota, sure. Brazil had none on there in 1955. Crazy. Okay. Questions? Reactions to those, to that trend of reality going on there?
How big is Tokyo?
Tokyo's the largest, but it is an urban center of a couple of different cities. It is actually Tokyo, Yokohama, and Kawasaki. That's 3 cities that have merged into one. It is the largest urban settlement in the world. And we think of New York as massive. New York, by the way, these statistics are measuring an urban area. New York itself is like 9 million. So the New York metropolitan area, all of that is 19. This is the population of Australia. Not a joke. Actually, I'm guessing Australia is 15 or 16. I've seen it compared to Los Angeles on an earlier graphic. But in the graphic, the graphic it showed Los Angeles as 14.5 million or something. So, but pretty significant transformation of our world in terms of urbanization. Being that trend is so relevant in your life, I don't know why they would avoid it on the AP test. So what they will ask you about urbanization, I don't know. We might be able to point to a couple more things as the unit goes on. I will point you to the things they have asked you free response questions on. But the idea is then that is the physical, well, this is just kind of a summation then of the idea of what urbanization means. Do you have questions? Q?
Didn't they take AP free response questions off of the ones that you can practice with? For certain years?
What do you mean?
Okay, so when you were giving us the AP the practice AP test,
Yep.
You said that they were taking certain questions off of a big list that they had from all previous years.
They've not removed any of the multiple choice tests. They only post 10 years of free response questions. So I think that 2005 is the oldest one. 2004 is the oldest one online. But I have some of the copies of the 2001 and 2 ones. Whether or not they would recycle those because they're less in the circle, I don't know. But one of them I actually passed out to you, and that was the one on Rostow. I don't know if I did pass that right, but anyway. So do you have questions on this? Okay. Shenzhen might be worth noting. Your textbook mentions it a lot of times as the fastest urbanizing region in the world. Don't know if it's relevant, but it is a big deal in your book. They did mention it at training. But look at this reality. In 30 years, it went from the size of Elk River to the size of Atlanta. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how in 30 years, This would be more people than Minneapolis and St. Paul combined times 3. This would be like making 3.5 Minneapolis and St. Paul's in 30 years. In one spot. So
What is Shenzhen? It's the fastest.
it's described in the textbook as the fastest growing urban region in the world. I don't know how that could be true because when you look at how Mumbai is growing so much in Calcutta, but the textbook talks about its rapid urbanization. But I think it matters that I point you to why it is. Remember our conversation about Hong Kong and the SEZ where China allows special economic practices? People are going there like crazy to profit off of China's cheap labor and to make money. This is Guangdong. This is the region where the SEZ exists. Shenzhen's growth is all about exploiting that open trade part of China's economic sector. Yep.
Have they increased like the city limit to compensate for the people?
That's a really fair question because Elk River's urban growth moved our boundaries, right? We incorporated more into the city. I'm sure there is some truth to that. It's not a conversation that needs to be part of what our AP Geo stuff, like Mumbai, has to have grown in territory, not just in numbers of people. Although there's some really cool pictures of the most densely populated region of the world. I need to find you this picture. I don't think I have it in the PowerPoint, but when you guys come in tomorrow, remind me to Google the most densely populated block in Hong Kong. It's pretty sick. All right, so that's Shenzhen. So then a quick overview of the first urban revolution. This is continuing where cities began and why. What?
This is a good place to stop.
You don't need this.
Okay.
So let me ask you this. When did cities begin? A long time ago, about the time that agriculture began. Where did it begin? About the same place as agriculture began, right? Why did it begin? Because they had surplus food and people began to specialize. They needed organization and structure. That story sits on your heart. So this is what the notes say. Before urbanization, people clustered in agricultural villages, relatively small. About 10,000 years ago, people began to be living in these villages. So then what happens is, this slide might be worth writing, that cities grow because of agricultural surplus, specialization, and social class. Cities are an emergence of agricultural surplus, specialization, and social class. All right, do you have questions about that? Do any of you have the Bitmoji app on your phone? Bitmoji app? You make a cartoon of yourself and then you text them like emojis, except it's you.
Really?
Never seen them?
What's it called?
Bitmoji.
Wait, what's it called? I'm gonna get it and send it in group messages.
I'll show you my favorite. I edited mine last night and took off the mustache. But I've been doing this non-stop for about 2 weeks. Mine had a mustache until last night. I jumped it on a little bit. So anyway, you make your emoji.
What's it called? Just say it one more
Bit
time.
emoji.
What?
Oh, it's not a time wasting app. I use it for communication. I texted my daughter hugs and I love you last night, and Maggie said, your Bitmoji is fat. Okay, so are you okay with this?
Which one is it?
There are 5 hearts
Like this one?
that are commonly referred to in cities.
Is it the IT?
I want to show you something on this map, and then I'll give you an easier slide to write it from. Remember, the equatorial climate, when cities emerged, was much milder, and the climates here were much colder. There's a reason this is where civilization began. As our Earth warmed from 10,000 years ago, it paved the way for that. You do not need to memorize these dates. Do not. Okay? But I would write them in order so that you know Mesopotamia is the oldest and Mesoamerica is the newest. Mesoamerica, well, let me tell you this, Mesopotamia, when you write that, I'm going to let you write these, then I'm going to give you a couple of cities to write with them. And I don't know why I was thinking of that Bitmoji, but I was.
This is great.
Are you making yours?
I'm going to.
Chapman's been doing it for months.
But I'm gonna send it to the group. They're all gonna be surprised.
Do you know the Nile is Egypt?
Yeah.
I mean, so you know that the ancient Egyptian civilization grew on the Nile. Mesopotamia, do you remember the city name Ur, and the civilization of Sumer? You might want to write Ur with Mesopotamia. That's, I think, very much a fair question. Whether or not they would call it the first or one of the early